Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I've on several occasions made reference to Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib radhiyallahu anhu. Always talks about lazzatul ma'rifah, the level of knowledge which is ma'rifah, which is wisdom, which can decipher between the right and wrong, haq and batil. And we have now information, surplus information. But not all information that we see and learn from the social media, from computers and AI, not all information are knowledge. And not all knowledge constitute wisdom. So the challenge of the education is to make sure that students have the information and the knowledge and be able to decipher what is right and wrong. One of the great inaugural speeches of Kennedy, JFK, not that we agree with many of his foreign policies, but I think what was considered right at the time was that when he said, assimilation of knowledge for the dissemination of truth. There's very strong value prescription there. Assimilation of knowledge. But to do what? Why do we need knowledge? Yes, it's knowledge and wisdom. For what? To disseminate truth, justice, and what is right. And that's a major challenge. Not only in Malaysia, but entire Muslim world and the world at large. I made reference this morning about there's trust deficit. We call ourselves democratic. Are we really democratic? We talk about dispensing justice. Is it true? You should question. And combat corruption, which is a major problem. I've always felt that the failure of governments all over the world, in various forms. We talk about blatant corruption. In some countries, they disburse funds to build houses or bridges. Funds was disbursed, and finally what appears as probably a small bridge. In the United States, if you read, for example, Fukuyama's latest work on the political system and criticism, not his earlier works, I'm talking about the latest, where he talked about democratic accountability, but he also made reference to institutionalized corruption at K Street, where you have strong number of the very rich and powerful conglomerates amass so much money and wealth and influence policies. There's not blatant corruption, but there is institutionalized corruption. Policies are made to satisfy the dictates, the demands of the elites and the very rich. So you have finally what Stiglitz said, the 1% versus the 99%. Maybe quite an exaggeration, but still, you can see gross disparity. So when I talk about knowledge, whether it's economics or politics, where you have a row of political scientists here in the making, or technology, or science, the fundamental values of freedom, justice, human dignity must be there. And that stems from values. And this is not something new or peculiar to Islam. Of course, it's strong in Islam because Islam stands for peace and justice. And we go for Jumu'ah prayers today, for example, is always stated, repeated every week in the khutbah and the sermon. Al-adl wal-ihsan. Inna Allah ya'muru bil-adl wal-ihsan. Justice and virtue. But there's a pronouncements from Al-Quran. But the test is, of course, from the action. This is precisely the reason why I say students must use the opportunity to acquire knowledge. There's no point having a university and you don't make full use of the facilities in the library, internet connectivity. There were some problems in the past. We have tried to resolve that. Have we resolved completely? Internet connectivity as well? Other? Yeah. Because I go to check, normally when I go to Friday prayers, I meet young boys, 12, 13 years old, ask them about their school. Where are you from? What is school? The lavatory all right? Yes. The teachers attend classes? Yes, but maths teacher was absent. Immediately I text the Minister of Education. So the Minister of Education was shocked. How come I know about these things? Because you ask. This interaction. If you are stuck with all the protocols and formalities, you can never get the right address. So that's why the Menteri Besar are having difficulty, because I get to get the report and I'll text him or WhatsApp him. So what I'm suggesting is that education, where you acquire or assimilate knowledge, but you must remember the assimilation of knowledge is for you first to really assimilate. You must use the facilities. Mind you, you'll never get this chance, not necessarily in your lifetime. Morning to evening to night, where you can really have all the time in the world to acquire knowledge, to assimilate knowledge. You won't. My personal experience, I don't have the time. As I had when I was in university, but I had a special privilege, which many of you will not have. Oh, that is, I was in prison for 10 years. And that privilege was fully utilized to read and read and read. I've mentioned to many of my friends that I've read, of course, the Quran, I'm trying to memorize, not most of it, part of it, the Hadith, 4.5 times, the entire works of Shakespeare with copious notes. I reread, for example, Dr. Zhivago, or War and Peace, or the great poems of Anna Akhmatova. Of course, the great classics of the West and the East. I reread even Bhagavad Gita, and the Chinese epics, Romance of the Three Kingdoms. You wouldn't have a chance to do that. But you think here you want to do it, you can always do something nasty, we'll put you in prison. And you can read. Now, of course, there's not an option. So please take this seriously. Yes, you need the facilities. We will provide you. Yes, the university, unfortunately, I remember coming here in 2018 after a hiatus of more than 2 decades. As you know, I was not able to enter, speak to you the last 2 decades. Sesi, you may not know that I was able to teach at Georgetown, give a lecture to Harvard, or lecture at St. Anthony's, Oxford University. I cannot enter any of the local universities. It's okay. There's the past. But now that after I watched, it's true. Osman lamented what he believed, what need to be done immediately, and I agree. So I think we have approved, actually, it's about 30 over million ringgit just for this sort of a facility for the university, I think. Yeah? You never clap until the money comes. Okay. Now, so back to the fundamental issue about assimilation knowledge. That's why when we talk about an intellectual, many claim to be elitist intellectuals. But sometimes you are we have a problem. Why this university in the first place? Osman made reference to my first letter to the then Prime Minister, I think about, Deputy Prime Minister or the Director of those days, there was a period of emergency, I think. National Emergency Council, Tun Razak, I think probably in 1971. I wrote a letter as president of the Islamic students body to say we should set up an Islamic university. Of course, I was not able to articulate the vision as well as I can do now. But I thought Islam is not a belief, and the concept of education is not really confined to some rituals, some very traditional conservative views. I thought Islam must be also, other than the ritual, the salah and the zakah, is also to promote peace and justice and understanding in humanity. Not to sow the seed of discord and differences. You see, in the Muslim world, we talk about here, Malaysia is 60%. It's a majority Muslim country. Islam is the religion of the federation. But we have more than 40% non-Muslims. We have to deal with them. You want me to be a hero by just abusing the non-Muslims? Yes, I'll be a hero among the Muslims. As many of my friends in the opposition does. But is that the right thing to do? First, is it an Islamic thing to do? Why do you have rahmatan lil alameen? When you propagate hatred, racism, fascism, and discord. So you must remember, you may be an Islamic university, but here the Islamic university is to promote the true understanding of Islam. Not so hatred for the others. It's understanding. It's lita'arafu. Appreciation after knowing one another. And that is what we mean assimilation of knowledge. Don't just assume. And I must remind you, some of the lecturers, of course, you come from a different society. So much the civil war and hatred and discord. But you are dealing with a different environment. We don't want that discord. So I must remind, whilst we welcome all, you are here to present to me an opportunity to promote the right understanding of the religion. Because otherwise, you have the ISIS and the Al-Qaeda, which is, of course, not a service to Islam. They're doing this service because the West understand Islam from the axis of evil. Remember the famous President Bush view after 9/11. First, Reagan about axis of evil of the communism, the Soviet Union. Then you have an axis of evil of the so-called extremist Islam, which forms a small minority. Now I want to stress this point because we also have the problem, internal dynamics within the Muslim community. Mona is here, the daughter of our great friend, AbuSulayman, whom I persuaded here to come here as the rector of the university and had immense contribution to the setting up of the university. After bitter quarrels with me, I was Minister of Finance, and he just said, you want an international Islamic university or you want a village university? I said, yes, ya akhi, but we need the funds. But I said, why are you finance minister for? This Saudi is a tough guy. I said, I happen to be Minister of Finance for the whole country, not for the Islamic University alone. But I must really thank him. May Allah bless his soul. Because for his continued harassment, because he believed in the cause. And you want to have a university, then better be a center of excellence. You want to have a university, an Islamic university, according to Abdul Hamid, it is not just any university. The curriculum, the message, the graduates you produce must be different. More knowledgeable, more articulate, more tolerant, more wise, and not having this problem, hangover of the extreme, views, intolerant, and preaching hatred every day. I have this problem too. Of course, not too many, fortunately, alhamdulillah, but we have the time. You have the freedom to use the social media. What do? Abuse, full of deceit, full of hatred, in the name of Islam or the Malays. I'm a Malay, I'm a proud Malay. I value the cultural heritage of the Malays and the Malacca Sultanate. But I thought the Malays have this beautiful cultural views in terms of tolerance, of the accommodation, accommodating other views, and respecting differences. Not racism was not one of them. Even in the height of the Malacca Sultanate, you have great brotherly engagement with the Chinese. That we can have a Bukit Cina in the Malay world. Can you imagine? During the Malacca Sultanate, you have a Chinese hill that you name. No resentment. Can you imagine? Prime Minister Anwar now announced that part of Gombak can be called Bukit Cina. Mampus aku. You see, there's a difference. So you must realize that when I talk about assimilation of knowledge, you must be able to understand the comprehensiveness of the knowledge. All right? Now I will end shortly, so allow you for time for questions. No, we still have a lot of time. But I would end with this. Assimilate, remember, all forms of knowledge, and this university is unique, is international. You have all colors and all cultural backgrounds, but remember, you want to present the unity of this knowledge. This is the most tolerant university, respectful of the others. We will not tolerate this, any attempt to sow discord and hatred. We will not survive as a nation. Malaysia will only survive if we promote peace. And justice for all. If I talk, for example, my first year in office as Prime Minister, I said, first deal with the schools. Look at the lavatories. Atrocious conditions. That's not what education is. But to me, it's all schools. Malay schools, Chinese schools, Tamil schools, rural heartland, the urban poor, all are being handled. Then I said, we can't deal with the issue of poverty in totality, but we can deal with hardcore poor. Those who don't have enough money to buy school uniforms or milk for the children. I said, I don't want anyone to suffer that fate. That we use every resource at our disposal to deal with this. Using government funds, zakat, whatever, no exception. It can be the vast majority of the Malays and the indigenous people. And the Indians, or the ethnic Indians in the estates, or some of the Chinese in the squatter area who are poor. They are all our citizens. And that is, to me, the strength of Islam, that we preach peace and justice for all.
Dato' Sri.
I'm finished. And then finally, I must say this, that when you graduate, go back, but remember, you have to excel, of course, in AI, in digital, in science, in the arts, in liberal arts, in Islam, in the Sharia, whatever. But you must continue this mission of peace and justice, human dignity for all. So thank you very much again. You are invited to ask questions. No need formality. You can call me Uncle Anwar or Pachi Anwar, it doesn't matter. But just ask questions. No restrictions. Those days, if you ask questions, there's people from the intelligence or the special branch who take down notes and you get into trouble. I can guarantee you, this is a free country, you are free to express yourself, right? Thank you.